Two, 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 two. Check. What's up, friends? Hello. Hello, friends. Hello, hello, hello. What's going on? What's going on, guys? Hey, guys. Rob here. How are you doing, friends? It's 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's the only time that this stream is going on. The only time zone that matters. The only time zone that counts. My kid was not in school today. He had a bit of a cough this morning. I feel in retrospect he probably could have gone just, masked. But on the safe side, kept him out of school, so wasn't able to stream during the day. I had to watch him, but here I am. Here I am. Ready to rock and roll. Ready to rock and roll here on TRRS. Will you commit to curing 1,000 members of chat from the TRRS worm disease? I think what you're referencing, G. Kleppy, I think is a sign that we live in a healthy society and culture. I think that's the main takeaway. That's the main takeaway. We live in a culture where everything's going great. Couldn't be better. Why do you ask? Everything's on the up and up. Fantastic. Just fantastic stuff. Yes, it's about the Mr. Beast philanthropy. I want to see if I can put this back here. I think that's a bit better. That's a bit better. Yeah, it's about the Mr. Beast philanthropy. And like, I'm not going to come out here and say that I'm like anti-curing people's blindness. You know, I'm not. I just think it's a bad sign when like people that have this curable disability are not able to like get the procedure that they need to restore their eyesight unless they agree to become content. You know? I think that's a little bit troubling. I think it's a little bit troubling that this is happening. I don't think it's very good. And I will not cure 1,000 members of chat from TRRS worm disease because I want you to have the worm disease and I think it's good. And in fact, having the worm disease is a feature, not a bug, of this community. So no, I will not be doing that. Chatters without worm poisoning. Come on. Come on now. So tomorrow should go back to my streaming at my regular time at noon Eastern, but I didn't want to miss a day. I've been committed to doing this entire month. A five-time daily streamer. I didn't want to break my commitment to you, the chat, the community. Should be back at the normal time tomorrow, though. How was everyone's weekend? Was it good? How was it? Nice? You have a nice time? That's the TRRS promise. That's right. That's also known as the 100% Rob guarantee. The 100% Rob guarantee. I'm going to need to order some kind of dinner situation, though. That's one thing I'm going to need to do. I'll tell you that much. The weekend was nice for me, though. I didn't do all that much, I guess. Friday, after the interview with VJ, which I felt really great about, went home and had some pizza. Watched Back to the Future Part 3. I don't think we finished it. No, we didn't quite finish it. Saw most of that, though. Lots of snow in these parts this weekend, shoveling and playing with the dog in the snow. A whole lot of snow over here as well, Plunger Man. Very, very snowy. Very, very snowy right now. Speaking of Back to the Future 3, has anyone ever seen the, like, weird, I don't know if you want to call it a blooper, in Back to the Future 3? Feature with the little kid at the very end. At the very end, Doc Brown comes back and the time machine is a train now. And he introduces Marty to, like, his family that he's had with Mary Steenburgen's character. And you meet his little kids and stuff. It's a very nice kind of ending to the series. You know, maybe a little too saccharine for my taste. I don't know. But there's a really weird moment with this little kid. I think I remember reading because maybe I think he was possibly disabled. And was, like, indicating to his parents or something. Yeah. He's pointing at his crotch, I think, to tell his parents or whoever that he needs to pee. But that's the shot that made it into the movie. At the very end. It's very strange. It is very, very strange. We didn't make it that far in the movie, though. We only caught the beginning part. Or the first 2 acts. We had to leave right before the end. Go to bed. And that kid is now in Congress. I don't know if that's true. I think that might be fake news. I think that might be fake news, folks. Watch out there for the disinformation. The disinformatia. That's how they get you. The phase news. That's right. That's what they say. What they call it. And yeah, I didn't do too much else. I mean, it was just snowy. I played in the snow a little bit. Did a lot of hanging out. Pretty uneventful. Did watch The Last of Us last night. I've been enjoying that. I'm wondering if folks caught that. Is that something we can have discourse over, or is that going to be like spoiler stuff, or is that going to be upsetting to people? I mean, I guess I could talk about it in a non-spoilery way. Is that the Crockpot show? That's right, yeah. I caught it, no spoilers, but I'm so glad that Frank and Bill did not have a dog. I mean, it was one of the first times when they really went away from the source material and presented Bill and the whole Billstown sequence, which is a really cool part of the game. But really deviated from the source material in a way that I think was kind of really cool, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy it. So it definitely was kind of strange how different it was. Bill in the game obviously is just this kind of crazy, very cynical person, and he interacts with Joel and Ellie. They've got a lot of really fun interactions with him and Ellie and stuff. And the whole reference to his relationship with Frank is really only kind of hinted at. Or This Is Us versus The Last of Us. The Last of This Is Us. It's the mashup. There is a really cool moment in the game though when Bill, he goes at the very end of the sequence. Basically, they find Frank's body, and you can tell Bill is he's so cynical, and he's always talking about how they're at each other's throats. But he kind of breaks a little bit when he sees that he's dead, and you can tell that there's more there that he's not really talking about. And I thought it was really interesting the changes they made to it. This is the game. This is the game from 2014. This is the game from 2014, John. And it's really not even that important part of the game. It's just a little bit of a look at this guy Bill's life and relationship that is kind of only suggested a little bit. And in the episode, they really turned it into this kind of heartbreaking, beautiful love story, which I liked and I enjoyed a lot. And it was definitely a story that was very interesting to see in that kind of environment. I was kind of hoping that it maybe could be you could get a little bit of that game stuff and you get some of the fun interactions with Bill and Ellie, and with just much more backstory and much more of an understanding of what the relationship was. I think that would have been cool, but they really just told this self-contained kind of tragic. It was kind of tragic, but kind of beautiful little love story. It was definitely a good episode. I enjoyed it. I as a fan of the game, also, it's just you have to I do understand that they've done so many sequences, such as the beginning of the series, which is directly taken out of the game. And it would be pointless to just do a live action version of the game and keep it exactly the same.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Hi Rob. Hi chat.
Hey Squatch, nice to see ya. 22 months resub at tier 2 from Squatch. Thank you, Squatch. Thanks for joining us. How's it going? I haven't seen you for a bit. Yes, it's the adaptation of a video game. Cinnamon Challenge. And yeah, so I understand that's they can't, even if people get annoyed at the changes that get made, it's they're not just going to make the exact same story and make everything identical and just film it in a live action version. That doesn't really make sense. Mr. Kleppy really likes post-apocalyptic fiction. He was saying how great it was to have a little tangential vignette to show us more about the world and how people deal with it. For sure. I really liked that bit of context about both the world and the world building and Bill's character. I guess I did kind of miss Bill interacting with Joel and Ellie and being part of the story more. But I think in and of itself, it was just a really cool self-contained little story. I give last night's episode 5 bags of popcorn and a box of tissues. It was definitely a tearjerker. I did enjoy it. I guess I did kind of miss seeing Bill figuring into the plot a little bit more, but I really enjoyed the episode. I'm here because I heard Rob was spoiling beloved popular media. Not true. 10 years later. A mild spoiler from 10 years later. Okay? And I talked about the game, and the actual filmed version of the show is very different from what the game was that I was describing. You did not miss much, Johnny. Hello. Welcome. What is up? You didn't miss much. I just started at 4. I'm just getting going here. I was talking a little bit about The Last of Us. The show had me and my wife sobbing quietly into our arms last night. Wow, it really got to you. It really got to you. It didn't make me cry. I did tear up a bit in the first episode at the proper noun part in the first episode. That fucking gets me every time. Have you played the game, Johnny? I guess my point was I thought it was really cool to get the additional context about Bill's character and Billstown and all that. I would have liked to. That's what my point was, Johnny. Was that that sequence is very, very different from how it is in the game, and the whole relationship depicted in the episode is very, very different. The game is worse. Do you mean just that sequence or just overall? We're not spoiling. We're not spoiling anything. I gave a mild spoiler to the game story from 2014 earlier, and we can drop it now. Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen a little. I really appreciated the added nuance and the added context of Bill and Billstown. I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more of the game version in there, just like in the end. And there are certain scenes in the show, I think, that I thought the scene in the previous episode with Tess and Joel and the whole climactic thing with them. In the game, it's just so great, and it was pretty good in the show version, but it didn't hit me in the same way. It speaks to how great the performances are in the game, the motion capture and the voice actors in the game. Like, they really did a fucking fantastic job, where you can even like compare it to an HBO show and be like, I kind of preferred the original. But I enjoyed the game so much that I have a hard time like letting go of that, my preconceived notions of it. The actress who voiced and mocap Tess in the game passed away yesterday. I know, I saw that. I was like, I hope that she got to see the depiction of Tess in the actual show. I imagine she did. That's really sad, though. She did a fantastic job. Absolutely fantastic job. Are there any actors that are in both? Yes. The actress that plays, I think her name's Marlena, is the same actress in the game as in the TV series. And I'm pretty sure both Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson are both in the series, not as Joel and Ellie, obviously, but I think they both got Marlene. Thanks, Squatch. I think they both have like bit parts in the show, which is cool. That's because that's the thing, that Troy Baker did such a fantastic job. They both did such a fantastic job, doing acting in the game. That scene with Tess and Joel and Ellie just hits so damn hard in the game, and it was good in the show, but I kind of preferred the game version. And I definitely appreciated the added nuance and the added context to Bill and Frank's relationship. It was definitely very different. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the game stuff and the interactions with Bill and Ellie and that stuff. That was really cool. But I think the story they did tell was still pretty good, and it seemed to connect with a lot of people. So, and it's also like nice. It's such a bleak show and story that I can also see why they wanted to take a little opportunity to tell a story that had like hope and optimism and like had beauty in it. So not every single character is this like cynical, angry, depressed person as Bill is in the game. Yeah, that's what I mean, Nedlocked. I think it makes sense from a narrative standpoint to just like have a few moments of like beauty in this relentlessly bleak and depressing kind of story. The only thing that I really missed from the game, though, and it like I talked about Bill and Ellie's interactions and that kind of stuff. It was the happiest ending literally any character will get unless they start changing every story beat this drastically. Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. Mondo Michel. But there's a moment how in the game when Bill's always just talking about Frank like it's like he's someone who just like they're always at each other's throats, and they're talking about he talks about him like he's this guy he can't stand. And then when he sees him later in the climactic part of that story, his voice like starts to crack and you can tell he's trying not to cry. I always really liked that part. That was really good. Looking forward to more of the then he talks shit about Frank anyway to hide the pain. Yeah. Like, again, I really liked that, and I kind of missed it in the episode yesterday, but like, turning that relationship and that story into like a touching, heartbreaking like love story. They did a pretty fantastic job with that as well. And I see that it touched and connected with a lot of people, so I'm not going to sit here and complain too much about it. It's the kind of thing, as with any adaptation, when people get mad about changes that are made to adaptations, like it is just inherently kind of silly, right? Because it's just like you can just play the game if you prefer that. If you don't like the changes that are being made in any of these adaptations or like reboots or remakes or whatever, you can just see the original. You can just play the original game, see the original film. Like, it's fine. You don't need to get so up in arms about every single little change that happens. W. Earl Brown is great, I admit. I love him in Deadwood. Didn't like the game Bill character very much, though. I do like, but the introduction and everything, I guess that was one thing that I kind of missed. With Joel falling into one of the traps and get the whole like action scene when he's upside down, and then you meet Bill. It's an awesome sequence in the game, but that's not. Again, I understand the narrative decision of being like, let's just do something completely different here. I do kind of want to play it again. It was the first thing I ever streamed on Twitch, as Lodane can attest to. Hi, Lodane. As Lodane can attest to, it was the very first thing I streamed on Twitch, was like from my PlayStation, with just audio only, playing The Last of Us. It would be kind of cool to revisit that. It is coming out on PC soon. You know what I did purchase as well today, though, talking about games? The Aliens Fireteam Alpha, or whatever it is. I remember Squatch, like, last year was telling me to pick that up. And I saw that it was... Lodane was talking about Colonial Marines in the first stream today. So I went to see if it was on sale, because I've been meaning to try it. And it was on the Humble Bundle page. 50% off. So I picked that up. I don't know if people want to get some community Aliens Fireteam action going, though. That could be kind of fun. Even when The Last of Us comes out on PC, like, it's got... The Last of Us Online is fucking great. Like, it's so good. I wonder if that would be something you could do as a community, because you do have like a little like... You have like a little post-apocalyptic community they are trying to take care of in the online. It would be kind of fun if we could get like a friendship triangle situation going. I don't know. He says, despite never ever doing gaming streams and never ever having the time to do so. So I don't know. It's really good. Yeah. It's really good, the multiplayer. That's not true. You've done Fortnite more than once. I remember watching you play the cat game. That's true. The cat game was fun. Did that entire game. That was kind of interesting. I'm not a fan of how Fireteam removes all the fear we have for the aliens, and every mission just becomes a hectic fight against waves of aliens that are gunned down in numbers that make aliens look like a photo safari. I remember I was watching the aliens like a YouTube video, and I think they had 6. I think they had 6 costumes when they were making that movie. And it was just a thing of like, how do we make these 6 costumes look like hordes of these creatures? And they did an amazing job, actually. This is why I suggested Rob play Isolation, which looks like it captured the aesthetic perfectly. Well, it definitely seems like it captured the aesthetic of the first film perfectly. Or we're talking about capturing the aesthetic of the colonial marine stuff from the second film, which I've always wanted as well. And here's my question about Aliens Fireteam, whatever. Does it have the same kind of sound design? Does it have like the effects of the pulse rifle and like that stuff? Because that was the shit when I was a kid that connected with me so much. The sound design is so great. I'm looking forward to trying it. The pulse rifles have the cool sound. Okay, good. Good to know. Very nice. You mean the sick minimal industrial music in the background? No, that's not what I was referencing, but that sounds cool too. I'm going to have to try it. I'm going to have to try it. Oh, Dakadoon. Started my Alien series watch with Prometheus. Honestly, you saying that makes me want to vomit. That makes me want to vomit. Alien Isolation isn't like Aliens at all, really, but it does have the motion tracker. Well, no, that's what it seems like, more of the aesthetic of the first film. I finally tried the cotton candy grapes, and they're great. Give them 5 bags of popcorn and 2 sodas. Sounds wonderful. It's definitely a good grape. I don't know if it's not my go-to grape. It's not what I want to have every time I reach for a grape. It's not what I want, but definitely good to try. I remember leaving the theater laughing and kind of angry. Johnny, like, I went to see Prometheus opening night because, like, I love the franchise so much. It's like, what, Ridley Scott is coming back to do a kind of alien prequel? That sounds phenomenal. I'm there opening night in the theater by myself. I went by myself to the movie theater. I was so excited to see this film. And it's like, I don't go to these things expecting to hate. I'm not a hater, you know? I was ready to love it. I wanted to love it. I was ready to love it. I was there opening night by myself. And then I think there was like halfway in the movie, visually it was stunning as well. It looks fantastic. But like halfway through the movie, I just remember having this feeling of just like, I hate this. I hate this. What am I looking at here? What is this? You know? And it was just so disappointing. I did try and rewatch it as well, and it just didn't do anything for me. This hurts. I had the best tickets to Prometheus, front row balcony at my favorite theater, but it was bad. It was bad, folks. It was bad. They teased and pretended it wasn't in the same universe during the marketing, and it was a whole thing. Well, but the trailer is like directly references Alien as well. It's like the teaser made it seem like it was more of a direct prequel, but then they like tried to do this like, oh, you thought it was a prequel, did you? Well, actually, it's this different thing, and it's like, fuck off. You know, make an original movie if that's what you want to do, or make a prequel to Alien. This like, oh, we're so clever. You thought, and like, no. You know, it was just bullshit. There was a second one. I didn't even watch it. Like, that's how crazy it is to me. That franchise to me is like, most people, like, that was my Star Wars as a kid. Like, the Alien and Aliens were the films that I were obsessed with. Just obsessed. You know? And it was just bad. It was just not good. And so the idea, I was so obsessed with this franchise and the fact that Ridley Scott made another Alien film, and I didn't even bother watching it. What was the one even called? Was it Revenant? Did not even watch it. Had zero interest to what? Covenant. Did not even consider watching it. The second one, Alien Covenant, is even worse, and the space truckers we know and loved in the first Alien movie is now portrayed as some of the biggest fucking useless idiots in human existence. Well, the whole thing in Prometheus, right, was that it tried to, like, have that aesthetic of, like, the working class space truckers, but they're on this historic mission that financed by this trillionaire who's pretending to be dead for no reason. He just pretends to be dead just so midway through the movie, Guy Pearce in old man makeup can just show up and be like, ho, 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 you didn't know he was still alive, did you? Why did he fake his own death? Why? That's literally the only reason. That's the only reason, is so the screenwriter can go, ho, 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 ho. That's it. There's a bunch of things in that movie that it basically is that as well. How's the screenwriter going? Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's what they do. Giving it a real Palpatine in episode 3 energy. But at least in the prequels, though, Palpatine, there's like an arc where you see him like slowly gathering power and slowly putting all the chess pieces into place, even if it doesn't make that much sense. There's at least an effort a little bit to like show that there's like an arc happening. In Prometheus, there is no such thing. Like, Wayland is just financing this expedition. So Wayland, the multi-billionaire owner of, or the CEO or whatever it is of Weyland-Yutani, the company from the original films. He finances this like historic journey to investigate this like ancient civilization that they have evidence for. All the people like flying the ship and everything are all these like working class nobodies who don't know why they're there. They get there and then they're like, okay, here's the secret mission that you're on. Why? Why don't they know? Why don't they know that that's what the mission is? Why is Wayland pretending to be dead? Why? Why didn't he just say, I'm going to finance this big mission. I'm going to bring in all these my guys so they know, who are experts that are not just going to freak the fuck out the moment we get into this exact situation that the mission is. I'm going to make sure that they know and they've trained for that exact situation rather than just like bringing this random geologist into this situation who's just immediately, as soon as they encounter this alien civilization, are just like, he's like, nope. And he just like leaves. What is that? What is that? Why is he pretending to be dead? What is the purpose of any of those decisions? And now we're talking about the prequels. Now we're doing, despite Lodane's explicit request/demand to not do prequel discourse, now I'm being ignored so the prequels can be discussed in the chat. Finn did get robbed, though, yes. I mean, that's the primary reason The Last Jedi is not good. Not because of like wokeness or anything, but just because like they took this great opportunity for this character and just like fucking just washed it down the toilet for no reason. Flushed it down the toilet. No Dan talk, no Star Wars. I believe it was no Star Wars prequel talk. It is true. There is some silencing going on now. Have you seen the tweets about the new Gladiator? I don't think so. I don't think I... Somehow, someway, we're getting a Gladiator sequel with Russell Crowe. All right. All right. I haven't seen that in many years. I was just going to say, like, I would love to see James Cameron make another Alien movie, but really Avatar is his other Alien movie. Like the Colonial Marines are essentially in Avatar. So I guess there's no point. It would just be, maybe we could do Xenomorphs versus Avatar. Maybe that would be Avatar 5. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's Xenomorphs versus Avatar. Oh boy. That's what I mean. I don't think it is confirmed that it's the same universe, Squatch, but it's kind of heavily, I mean, it's heavily suggested, I think. Xenomorphs versus Na'vi does sound kind of dope. Imagine the humans in an effort to get all the... I think I actually want this. This is more like a fanfic than something I would actually like to see in the franchise. But if they wanted to like cleanse Pandora of the Na'vi, the company, that's why they want the Xenomorph for their bioweapons division. Oh, these indigenous populations giving you trouble in this place where you want to extract the resources. Throw some Xenomorphs down there so it just like wipes out everything. Get a Predator in there as well. Why not? Why not? A Xeno Na'vi would be sick. I think Na'vi win against Predator on home turf as well. Yeah. Throw RoboCop in there as well. Yeah. I don't know. Where are we going with this? Just one sec. I'll be right back. I bet we're going to get something like that in one of these goddamn movies. I think he already referenced Evil Na'vi, Sean. I think that's the next film. I think we're getting some Evil Na'vis in the next film. Sean, why haven't you seen Avatar: The Way of Water? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, sir? I don't go to theaters. Well, that's fair enough. How would Prometheus fit in? It does not fit in. It's not canon. I do not consider Prometheus canon. Like when we were watching Alien the other night and we saw the space jockeys. That's not a blue guy. That's not a big blue guy. in like a elephant mask suit. It's not. It's just not. But there's an Alien movie that's a Prometheus sequel. Not canon, Doc. Sorry, I'm making an executive decision here. I'm uncanonizing Prometheus. No, I don't have the ability to do that. No, I don't. No, I don't have the ability or the authority to do that, but I'm declaring it. It never happened. It never happened. What is this new thing? What is this fungus that you're sending us, Sean? Candida auris. Oh, what the fuck? Sean. What the fuck is this? Are you fucking kidding me with this? Candida auris is an emerging fungus that presents a serious global health threat. CDC is concerned about C. auris for three main reasons. It is often multi-drug resistant, meaning that it is resistant to multiple antifungal drugs commonly used to treat candida infections. Some strains are resistant to all three available classes of antifungals. It is difficult to identify with standard laboratory methods. I almost said laboratory. And it can be misidentified in labs without specific technology. Misidentification may lead to inappropriate management. It has caused outbreaks in healthcare settings. For this reason, it is important to quickly identify C. auris in a hospitalized patient so that healthcare facilities can take special precautions to stop its spread. CDC encourages all U.S. laboratory staff who identify C. auris to notify their state or local public health authorities and CDC at candidaauris.cdc.gov. Kind of a disturbing and alarming lack of information on that. What kind of a health threat? What kind of a health threat are we talking about here? Presents a serious global health threat. But like, what is this? What are the symptoms? It's a serious global health threat, but like, let's not talk about like what it does or what's gonna happen or how you get it or what. Just like if you notice this, fucking call the government immediately. Call the fucking fire team as soon as you notice this. But no, we're not going to put any information about what that actually does to you on the CDC website. Biting, loss of motor functions, general malaise, and taste for brains. Consultation with an infectious disease specialist is highly recommended when caring for patients with C. auris infection. Even after treatment for invasive infections, patients generally remain colonized with C. auris for long periods and perhaps indefinitely. I don't know about this, folks. I don't know if I'm very happy about this, Sean. I didn't really want to have this information. Yeah, colonized. Kind of little alarming use of language here on the CDC website. Spores of this fungus can reside within clinical equipment and on surfaces in hospitals, becoming especially dangerous if they're present in tubes and catheters used in medical procedures. I see. I see. That's where that fungus came from. Oh no, John, I'm sorry. They got you too. They got John. In the future, let's go ahead and just keep this kind of stuff to ourselves. We don't need to know about this anymore. I mean, we know that the government and no one's going to do anything about the next big outbreak of whatever, so we might as well we should just at least have the element of surprise. You know, what's the point even? What's the point in even talking about it? Obviously, we're at the social Darwinist, whatever happens phase of public health measures. So it's you want to tell us all about it while you do nothing, basically? That's what we want to do? I vote to just hear nothing about it. How about that? Let's stop even talking about it. Just everyone for themselves. That's right. At least it's not the woke mind virus. That's true. That would be really dangerous. That would be really dangerous if it was that woke mind virus that's been going around. Candida auris. Symptoms. Has caused bloodstream infections, wound infections, and ear infections. I don't know about this. I'm not so sure about this. That kill rate. What's the kill rate? DJ Chip, what's the kill rate? What the fuck? Oh, good. Don't worry, folks. It's only 30 to 60 people. Only 30 to 60% of people with TRRS infections that have died. Don't worry about this. Sounds okay. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal. It doesn't sound that big of big of a deal. I think it should be all right. This disease that has 1% or 2% kill rate that's been causing such mayhem in our society, not just because of the disease, because of people's reaction to public health measures. That's been most of the mayhem. Yes, the hospitals are filled up. Yes, our healthcare system is strained to the breaking point. But a lot of the most catastrophic effects have been socially, from people reacting to basic health measures that have been put into place. And of course, now that we're completely conditioned to immediately react with hostility towards any talk of locking down, staying at home, engaging in basic safety measures to try and protect your friends and neighbors and community. Now that we've been completely, totally conditioned to react with fear and anger immediately towards that. We probably the possibility of this becoming more of an issue, so I'm sure it won't have any bad consequences. Is God playing Pandemic 2? I mean, Johnny, we haven't even released all the old ancient billion-year-old bacteria from the Arctic permafrost yet. This is just the warm-up. This period that we're going through now is just the pandemic warm-up period. Once we start unleashing those, like, the Thing bacteria from Antarctica, then we're going to be really talking. TRRS, at this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within your kitchen. Hello, finally, Daisy. What's up? Jesus, this is so fucking alarming. I genuinely, like, I'm sure it's good that we have this information. I genuinely wish no one had mentioned this, frankly. I really do. Siberian Death Flu 2037. Oh my goodness. Trans-Siberian Death Flu announcing the new album, Ego Plague Comes Rip. This is really not good, folks. It's why I did this tweet yesterday. Just like, it wasn't anything in particular that made me think of this. By the way, before I do anything, please, if you haven't already, go and smash the like button on this. It's been wonderful to have you back on the show. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Go and smash the like button on the VJ video. It's up. The VJ interview video is up on YouTube. Please give it a watch. Another great conversation with our friend VJ Prashad on Friday. Give that a watch, and please give it a like and a comment on YouTube. That's very helpful. That's very, very helpful when you do that. Give a like and a comment to the video on YouTube. USA wants Ukraine to fight Russia. They want Israel to fight Iran. They want Taiwan to fight China. But all their weapons are gone in Ukraine. Tough stretch for the West. Can they pull it off? Yes. Seriously. You almost wish they would just fucking come out and start bombing these places if that's what they want to do. It's so cowardly. This proxy war bullshit that they've been doing now for an entire generation. Because they know they can't win an actual war in any of these places if they commit their troops to it. But if you create big quagmires, then you can funnel funds to the arms manufacturing. You don't have bad press of American coffins being unloaded at home. You can kind of keep everyone in the dark about it. You can blame everyone else but yourself. That's the cowardly imperialist way. Anyways, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment and thumb up the VJ Prashad interview. what a wonderful guy, what a wonderful guest. Yet again. And I was just thinking about this, like, it's so true that I think every generation thinks like, oh, we're certainly in the end times now, like, and we have to understand that, and you know, life has always gone on, and regardless of what happens with any of the scary shit that we're talking about, life is going to go on. I think you're talking about the end times, like the collapse of like what we understand as being like our culture and civilization does feel a lot closer for us than I think it was, like objectively. It's in terms of the possibility of these new pandemics, our food supply, our food system, our failing healthcare system, the climate change, the sea levels rising, the possible, like, yeah, again, they're talking about our fucked up food system that's like going to be severely disrupted by the raising of the climate, the possibility of global conflict, global nuclear conflict, right? It's a lot of different things that we can like objectively measure and objectively look at, that are like in a sort of confluence right now. Taco Bell taking menu items off for no reason. We're making bad Alien prequels. My emote might never come to exist. That is absurd. John, the old Rob emote is fucking absurd. Gosh, totally tangentially though, but we got so many new emotes that I gotta figure out. We got a bunch of new emotes that Elaine did, and I made a couple more as well. So I really am going to need to take a hard, dispassionate look at the emotes that we have on this channel. And we're going to have to ditch the ones that we don't use. We're going to have to be ruthless to make way for all these new emotes. What are you even eating? Is that a shoe? It is a eclair. It's an eclair. I don't know if eclair Rob is going to survive. It's funny. It's funny, and I do eat a lot on the show. That is true. So maybe there does need to be an emote for that. But like, again, it's unclear what it's even a picture of. One of these has to go. I think maybe original Rob mode could go. Although, I don't know. I mean, it's like, that's my iconic picture from Fox News with Momo. We can have an emote meeting, Lodane. We can have an emote meeting. Do not do this live. I did kind of wanted to show one of the other emotes that I made, though, because it's going to be really, it's a good one. I made two good ones. Anyway, the point is, though, and the point that I was pointing out, no, obviously we wouldn't get rid of my father. We're not getting rid of my father. That's not going to happen. We can do an emote meeting sometime this week if you want, Lodane. We can sort it out. But you know what I mean? It's like the whole, like, the idea of like this end time thing. We got more pandemics. We got climate change. We got the threat of global nuclear conflict. And all these things are heating up. And like I said, a lot of the time they're all connected as well. Like the possibility of pandemic and more pandemics is directly linked to climate change. You know, it's linked to our whole economic system, which is on the verge of collapse, and the whole completely fucked up relationship that we all have to food. I actually really enjoy how that's a big part of The Last of Us TV series. I'm surprised Twitch has let you have the political ones for so long. Me too. It seems like a lot of other people, even people with smaller profiles, have gotten emotes removed for way less. It is kind of surprising. We kind of slid under the radar. But I'm super disturbed now by Candida auris. Especially since I've been watching The Last of Us TV series. I pretend I do not see it. I remember for the longest time with COVID, that's how I was. When I was hearing the initial reports, about COVID and China and seeing what was happening in Italy or whatever, I really just had this feeling of like, I'm just going to like pretend this is not happening. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm just not going to think about this. I was like that guy in Children of Men when Clive Owen's questioning why he collects all the famous artworks. He's like, what's the point of doing that? Everyone's going to be dead. He's just like, I just don't think about it. So I think that's how I'm going to choose to follow this story, the emerging story of Candida auris, the fungal infection with the 30 to 60% kill rate that the CDC is concerned about. Poses a serious global health threat. Children of Men, yeah, it's like so fucking prescient. Oh, and by the way, we also have all this shit that like talk about how it's tied in with our whole like economic system and the food system. The fact that we're all like filled with microplastics as well. You're seeing like an increase in like colon cancer and other forms of cancers that we normally associate with like people in their 50s and 60s, people in their 20s and 30s are getting this now. Right? It's in the air we breathe. Like, fuck. There's like 4 or 5 separate measurable, factors we can talk about, which are all coming together at the exact same time. And yeah, I don't really believe in the end times either. Like, I think people will always endure in some form or another, no matter what happens. And maybe we will just be able to continue slapping band-aids over like every single little of these various crises, this confluence of crises, and we'll be able to kind of still keep going on. But like, there's a lot of stuff really converging at the same time that made, at the very least, completely shift like our whole entire way of life. At the very least, when we talk about this, like I don't think humanity is going to go extinct or anything like that. But we're talking about the possibility that our sort of global economic order, our society, our culture is going to like cease to exist in its current form. By the way, if you had a gas stove growing up, you probably have long-term lung damage. Well, it doesn't matter, because even if you say that to people, instead of saying like, oh shit, I might have a long-term health consequence from this thing, well, guess what? It's what they do instead is they go and turn on the gas even higher, and they go, ha ha ha, how dare you tell me that this is harmful for me? That's people's like reaction to hearing this kind of information. You know? And that's going to be the same thing with the next pandemic. Oh, hey, by the way, everybody, there's this, the coronavirus pandemic? Well, guess what? There's a new one starting, and it's even more intense, and many, many more people are going to die unless we take these very specific precautions right now. Here, what the precautions are. All these people, millions of people that have had their brain melted by like the TikTok algorithm and the Facebook algorithm and Instagram or whatever else. Millions of people, if this moment ever does come, are just going to be like, man, fuck you. And they're going to go out and just get the disease. And they're going to go and fucking harass the nurses that are fucking taking care of people in the hospital. Nobody's going to tell me how to live. Yeah, that's right. And they're not going to take, we miraculously, we came up with the vaccine for this. They're not going to take that. They're not going to follow any of the advice. That's the whole thing about like the Shazam guy, right? What is it? Zachary Levi? I guess it's like a Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson guy. And just before his movies come out, now he's posting about like anti-vax stuff. That's the whole insidious thing about the anti-vax is that like people are taking the very real, horrible things that big pharma companies like Pfizer do, and they're using it to just like paint them as just purely evil and not to be trusted, and like not to ever acknowledge that they are still a company regardless of the various evil history and the various terrible things that they've engaged with in their business practices, still do make medicine that like cures sick people. The way that they profiteer off that, domestically and internationally especially, that's evil. You know, they've done a number of evil things. The profiteering, right? That is bad. That's what we don't want as socialists, as Marxists. You know, we don't want these big companies to exist. We want this to all be nationalized. But Pfizer still, regardless of the evil things that it does and the ways that it profits very immorally and evilly off these life-saving medicines and off people's misery, basically, is still a company that is making medicine that can help you if you are sick. Right? But people are losing sight of that now. So when the next pandemic happens, whether it's Candida auris or whether it's whatever else, the thing, bacteria from the Arctic permafrost, what have you, whatever form it takes, that's going to be the reaction to any public health measures. If climate change starts to be more severe, you think we're like, we talked about how they react to gas stoves. How are these people going to react to say like, okay, no more cars. You can't drive your car anymore. Or now gas is like 5 times as expensive. You know, or we have to relocate you. Your home is going to be underwater in 6 months. Not just financially, economically, but literally. We need to relocate you. What are people going to do? How are people going to react to that? We're mad because they prevent people from getting medicine. Chuds hate them for making medicine. That's right. Well, and that's what these people don't even get too. It's like, oh, you like big pharma? But like, if you ask them like big pharma, like, why don't you like it? I don't know that any of these folks would be able to give you a satisfactory answer. You know, to tie into what I meant to talk about today, which is the anniversary of the honkening, the trucker convoy or what have you, the fake convoy, the non-working class convoy. They would say the same thing when we talk about the convoy and the vaccine mandates. Oh, and talking and criticizing
You've
this.
Just become an elite member
reactionary
of the friendship
group.
triangle.
Criticizing this extremely reactionary convoy protest. People say, like, oh, you support big pharma. That's their, but it's like, what? They wouldn't even be able to give you an answer about why they don't support big pharma. It's literally just like, they're forcing me to take medicine and I don't want to. Christine, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Christine. That's so kind of you. I really appreciate that. I'm getting off on a slow start here because of my weird schedule, because of my sick son that I was taking care of. So thank you for getting the ball rolling on that, Christine. Very, very nice of you. Thank you. Stu went down there. You can look at his footage. Well, it was funny, Lodane, how totally like shitty it was and depressing looking. Because like we were talking about the other day, it's like you're doing an annual, like an anniversary of the convoy. These people are still mad. There's places in Canada where they've been doing these like weekly protests that have been connected with that whole movement. Why though? Like we were talking about the other day, there's a guy that was like, for whatever reason, was like arguing with me about that the other day. You know? And it's like, what are these protests about, really? It's not just anti-big pharma. You don't even know. You don't even know why you're upset anymore. There are no mandates. Like, there's nothing. There's no more public health measures. You know, all these people got everything that they wanted. Everyone's back at their jobs. No one's wearing a mask. No one is getting a vaccine anymore. No one's getting okay, so what are you still angry about? What is actually wrong? They don't know. They don't know what's wrong. And that's what I mean. Like it's incoherent. And when people would fucking lecture me about why, as a true socialist, you must support these people because they're like against the government, I guess was the argument. Or they're against big pharma. But it's like, why? They're not against big pharma. They don't, if you ask them what are you actually angry about with big pharma, they wouldn't be able to give you a satisfactory answer. The Chudvoy meetups around here are now holding up signs that say no digital ID. Okay, that's okay. Digital ID. They don't even wear masks in my local hospital. All these people have got everything that they wanted. What's the theory or reason behind these people? Well, essentially, ostensibly, it was about these like truckers being forced to get vaccines, being mandated to get a vaccine if you wanted to go across the border of the United States. And all these like Ford F-150 driving suburban like landscaping business owners pretended to be like this working class movement and completely freaked out at basically just a spasm of anger and violence towards any public health measure whatsoever. Like that's essentially what it was. How did they get so dumb in general? I don't know. Part of it is right-wing media. That's a part of it. A lot of these folks are just totally brainwashed by these like reactionary Facebook groups, essentially in the YouTube algorithm and the TikTok algorithm, into believing just wacky conspiracy theories about Justin Trudeau working with George Soros and Big Pharma to put nanobots in our bloodstream in order to destroy the white race and that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's something along those lines. Capitalist media, liberal media included. Well, that's what I mean, like Old Dutch. Like I think these specific people are brainwashed by right-wing media, both on and offline. But of course, people that consume any corporate media are just brainwashed in different directions, which we should not lose sight of as well. But I think these specific people, though, are animated by right-wing conspiracies that get propagated online, and they get kind of rubber stamped by right-wing media figures in the mainstream. and then kind of spin off into these wild directions in social media, Facebook groups and TikTok stuff. The Chinese communist regime and their social credit system seems to be the model Canadian politicians are striving towards with their digital ID. That's what they're mad about, Fart Party? Yeah, if only. Seriously. Like, all the shit that these people are mad about, I actually want to do. You know? They're all mad about Justin Trudeau being this communist that wants to work with China to destroy our economic order. And it's like, I actually agree with that. If Trudeau was doing that, I would think that was wonderful. You know, unfortunately for us, that's not what's going on. But that's what I mean. It's like, if we ever actually tried to implement the things that we believe in this program, these people would fucking freak out because they think that Justin Trudeau is doing it. Imagine if someone actually tried to do these things. And the entire media apparatus distracts you and rewards you for focusing on yourself. That's a good point, Sean. And like, you know, the way I was talking about, like, all these different things that are kind of contributing to this kind of end time scenario, you know, the burgeoning collapse of our economic order, pandemics, climate change, food. And it's not even that we don't talk about these things in the media, but the only solution, the solution is like individualized, right? That's what's lacking in any analysis on this. The idea of like collective response to any of these things is just taken off the table in our discourse. And yeah, it's just like, just fight, just go out and exercise, just eat better, recycle, compost, don't take your car as much, don't use plastic straws. It's your choice whether if you want to wear a mask, if you want to go to the store and wear a mask, sure, I guess so, but we're not going to get involved. Everyone can just individually make the choices that they feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable wearing a mask or taking any precautions whatsoever, well, we're not going to stop you. Just go to town. This is like our neoliberalized society. Like, after decades and decades of this specific project to whittle away at any of this common sense of like community or social solidarity has just been completely dismantled. Whatever there once was. And this is the result. Now we can't do these things. You know? We just can't. We can't respond to these things. And we can only respond to them as a series of individuals. Not as a society, not as a culture, not as a community. The answer to capitalism is to create a TikTok and monetize it. Yeah, and here I am. And here I am on twitch.tv/Rob Rousseau dancing for slubs and talking about all this stuff. All this is going on. Yeah, people are free to choose to murder themselves, but not free to get adequate health care. Yeah, that's right. You're just attracting negative vibes. That's the problem. Yes. Maybe Mr. Beast will stop climate change. Well, I mean, that's it goes back to like one of the things we were saying with VJ when VJ was on the show. The way that, you know, when we need to act collectively, like on a global level, not just in our society or in our culture, but on a global level. We need to be working, if we want any chance to build a better future. If you still believe that option hasn't just been taken off the table at this point. And I go back and forth on that. I try to have revolutionary optimism, but I don't feel too good, frankly. But like, even if you do believe that we can still have a sort of organized response to fix these problems, not just put band-aids on them, but fix them, that requires like a global cooperation. We need to be cooperating with China. We need to be working with China right now to stop the next pandemic or the next economic downturn or to fix climate change. We need to be working with Russia. And like Vijay Prashad was pointing out, we're removing them. We're shutting down the council to even talk about what is happening in the Arctic because Russia's involved. And we're positioning and trying to make it so only the West, only NATO countries are like in these discussions. Like we're going backwards. We're going in the wrong direction. Sweden, USA, and Germany is already in recession. That's it. And we can't have any, like I was saying, we don't have any conversations about changing our economic system, certainly. We barely, even in the pandemic, when there was a slight amount, an increase in social spending in Canada and the United States, with CERB and with the basic measures that were put in place in the States, the child tax credit, the one-time payments that you got, even that is discussed in these like terms as if people think that that's what contributed to the whole destruction of our economy. So even that has been taken off the table. But yeah, when it comes to our economic situation, that's it. That's all we have to look forward to is austerity and further decline. And then they say, yeah, as to deal with that, here's crypto. Here you can get involved in these crypto scams, or join the gig economy, or like don't retire anymore. Just don't retire. You have individual responses to the coming economic downturn. You have individual responses. Join the gig economy. Drive an Uber. Work at Walmart until you're 92 years old. Yeah, here's one of these cool new crypto exchanges. Oh, don't worry, it's totally legit. Look at this cool app you have on your phone. It's basically free money. Don't worry about it. Definitely invest your pension funds and all your big, get your unions involved in investing in this. Don't worry, it's totally legit. An American would rather someone go without, including themselves, than everyone gets something. And I mean, if it's even the same, I think America is the epicenter of that kind of like mindset, but you see a lot of that in England and Canada as well. Even though we basically got a national healthcare system in England and Canada to like sort of give us something, which has become kind of a point of national pride in both these places, even though now it's going away in both England and Canada, and everyone's like, whatever, it's fine. They're not even complaining about it. But it's a lot of the same thing. Like you see when people are complaining, like the nurses or whatever are on strike in the UK, or like any workers, or anytime anyone advocates for better conditions, like no matter who it is, the basic reaction from like these British boomers is always like, oh, during the war, well, not boomers if they was in the war, but like, it was freezing cold in our house every night. We just burnt our furniture and it was all right. And they have this attitude of like, yeah, it was miserable. We lived in absolute misery. They like fetishize it. They fetishize the misery that they at one point lived through. And anytime anyone advocates for anything better, for better living conditions, for better pay, for better healthcare, instead of being like supporting that, they like criticize and mock the people that are protesting. And they suggest like, yeah, we should go back to living like that, and like to see that would be totally fine. Like that's our reaction. That's our reaction to this kind of thing. It's fucking sick. Oh, that's a good point too, Blueberry. Yeah, that's the thing about boomers. They didn't go through that. Their parents did, and they pretend like they did. That's right. Meanwhile, they got every single comfort. They got all the social benefits. They got the cheap housing. They got the abundant union manufacturing jobs. They got the climate that wasn't fucked up. They got the cheap education. I'm a single income family I have a union job at like the box factory, and you can afford a fucking, a home for a family and kids. They're like, I mowed lawns an entire summer to get my college education. Yeah, it costs like $500. That's not surprising. That's not what it's no longer like that though. So that's it. They pretend they had this hard time. They pretend also that they like did all these amazing things socially as well. Ended ended the racial discrimination, enacted the civil rights movement, ended the Vietnam War. They all brag about this as well, which they did not do at all, which is not accurate whatsoever. Now we have people proud of working 80 hours a week. Yeah, and when people complain, they're like, what are you complaining about? Your 40-hour work week. I work 80 hours and my life fucking sucks. And it's like, yeah, it does. It does suck. Joe Biden ended apartheid personally in South Africa. That's the exact, even though he's not a boomer, he's the exact boomer mindset. I have no empathy. Remember that quote? That's the boomer mindset. What's the strategy to avoid getting black-pilled? I mean, I think learning about history, learning about the struggles that people have gone through, is as much as we're talking about the struggle that we're in now and that we might possibly be in the future. People in societies and cultures around the world have dealt with extremely adverse situations and have managed to turn things around. We can learn from that. We can, I think, take solace. I take a great amount of comfort in the things that are happening around the world in different cultures and societies. This kind of global shift that's happening away from the sort of Western hegemonic version of global politics and economy that's been pervasive through our entire lives, I think the rise of these different alternatives, economic and cultural alternatives, these are all stuff that don't make me feel black-pilled. I don't have a ton of hope about our society and our culture. I must say, yeah, forget the US, the UK, and Canada. Cast your eyes elsewhere for hope. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to give up on advocating for the society that I want to see. I don't have a ton of confidence here in the West that we have anything to look forward to more than just further decline. For all the reasons that we've outlined already. Shifting realities does sound good. I understand the inclination, frankly, I would like to shift realities if I could. I'd like to take my whole family with me to the better reality, where the last 80 years were a time of unprecedented world historic peace and cooperation, where the West worked with, after the war, worked with the Soviet Union to create a equitable global system, economic system for everybody, where we protected the environment, we protected each other. That would be nice. It would be nice to be in that world. My people yearn for freedom. Xi Jinping, please send Shenzhou J-20 multi-role attack aircraft. This, but unironically. Only 40 more years until first contact. But yeah, but as you'll remember, though, there was a fucking global cataclysm before that time. It's the middle class that's the problem. Maybe psychologically, but there's no middle class anymore, though. That's the problem, because every single measure that was in place to help people achieve that middle class status is going away. You can't buy a home. You can't get an education. You can't get a union job. They don't exist anymore. That's what built the middle class, that high marginal tax rate on billionaires and big corporations. That's what built the middle class. I think that middle class, suburban reactionary mentality is the problem for sure. But part of the issue here is that no one can even access that lifestyle anymore, or barely anyone can. Obviously, the solution is more tax cuts. That's right. I've really got to... Sorry, this is just an aside. I've got to get a better situation here with my glasses because they're so reflecting. Gotta fix that. I should learn Mandarin. We should all learn Mandarin. Yes. Bourgeoisie is the middle class, and encouraging property ownership was wrong. Tax more. Well, Wraith, I mean, to your point, I mean, that's the whole idea. I was talking about this with Famous Horse the other night, but like the whole New Deal, like that was a whole, the entire, what I'm talking about, that built that middle class, all these like New Deal style policies, prevented socialist revolution in the United States. Like there was that's the only reason they felt compelled, the ruling class of America felt compelled to give that alternative to anyone anyways, was to save capitalism, from collapsing, and stave off any sense of socialist revolution. So then they spent the next couple of decades, slowly chipping away at those economic policies while just inundating people with nonstop anti-communist propaganda. And now they feel totally comfortable taking away those economic policies. Like I was saying, even in Canada, where our healthcare system is being privatized, whatever semblance of the New Deal that once existed in the U.S. is long gone. But now they feel comfortable doing that because of the decades of anti-communist propaganda that they've just blasted people with. And the lack of an alternative. There's no more Soviet Union, although China is changing the dynamic on that. Which you say today, people call you a tanky, even though that's something FDR and Stalin would agree is true. For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And not every American was able to get New Deal benefits. For sure. It was a racist policy as well. Many people totally excluded from New Deal policies. Even like black communities that emerged that became economically successful were like destroyed by white supremacist terrorism, basically, which the state turned a blind eye to. For the black communities that still managed to cobble together whatever economic prosperity they could, despite being not included in a lot of those policies. But there was kind of a wink with the whole, these white supremacist militias and terrorists. Speaking of our trash called decaying culture, I do think I'm going to use a delivery app to pay $15 extra to order food from a restaurant down the street from here that I would be better off walking to. I have no doubt the U.S. will try to nuke China before allowing any of their success positively affect workers in the West. Yeah, as we've talked about a lot lately, Dakadu and I do agree with that. As long as you feel bad about it, I do. Don't worry about that. Do not worry about that. Just one moment, just talk amongst yourselves. Okay, that's done. That's done. Yeah, talk about our decay. So yeah, anyways, yeah, I'm talking about individualizing the solutions. I'm here monetizing my thoughts about this into content. You know, everything may be on the verge of collapse, but you can do this. What if you monetized your every single thought and all your insecurity about this? All your feelings about this collapsing society and decaying culture. What if you turned that into content for people and monetized it, and then you had access to cool little apps that you could order delivery food on, and you can get some severely underemployed, underpaid gig economy worker to bring you food? How about that? Can I interest you in that? Turning discussing the end times into mobile food orders is very cool. I agree. This segment has been sponsored by Skip the Dishes. Thank you, Skip the Dishes, for sponsoring this content and this lively discussion. See, everything's not so bad. Everything's not so bad. We might have this like confluence of various crises all hitting us at the same time. The increasing threat of global conflict, more pandemics, economic collapse, climate change. But what if you got to click on this little app? What if you got to click around on this little app and order your dinner? And it makes it super easy to do. What about that? Can't die till I get the new TRRS merch. No, I know, Fart Party. Valued community member Fart Party 69. That's coming soon. We got Old Dutch in the chat. Did an absolutely incredible job on that new merch. I'm really excited to do that. To drop that. If you don't tip, should they be able to eat some of your food? I would say yes. I think that's more than fair. You're cross-branding with Old Dutch chips. That's correct. That's right. By the way, speaking of monetizing this content, folks, did you know that you can subscribe to this channel and it keeps this content on the air and it allows me to continue doing this program? And if you pay $5 per month, you get, this is a great deal, folks. You get, you can post tiny little pictures. You can post tiny little images in Twitch chats of me, various socialist leaders throughout the years.
Have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Me eating an eclair, an animated version of me playing drums. For only $5, you can have access to these tiny little images. Doesn't that sound nice? Doesn't that make you feel like when you're feeling like this sense of alienation, doesn't it feel nice to make a little animation appear on the screen or in the chat and you can make it say things? Doesn't that make you feel kind of slightly less alone a little bit? You get this Canadian guy staring at you. Yeah, and socialist leaders like JFK. I think JFK's on the chopping block as an emote, even though we do talk about the JFK assassination a lot. For $5, you get this man's friendship. This man that's looking at you right now. Act now and you can receive this limited time me eating a donut PNG image. That's right. I hope this is making you feel as insane as I do. It absolutely is. And thank you, Comrade Social Distancing, for the gifted sub. Thank you. And remember, if you give 5 gifted subs, it plays a little different animation. And if anyone out there gives 10 subs, it has an even more rare animation that it plays. Using it with a sound drop from our friend BJ Prashad. Doesn't that sound nice, folks? It's a rare treat. Yeah, actually pulling a Mr. X, for sure. Did VJ sign off on that? No, he did not. And I feel a little weird about it, but I'd like to think that it's okay. I mean, people, it keeps his name out there, right? He likes that we talk about his work on this program, right? I think he likes that he's become a little peripheral character on this program. You know, that's more interest in his work for him, more book sales. I think he's okay with it. And he's my close personal friend, and I feel comfortable in saying this. He's not on your level, but he's okay as like a sidekick. Thank you, Sean. Appearing on TRRS is tacit approval. That's right. I did send him a waiver, which was maybe disguised as something else. He just says a little click, accept all, click, when he joins the Zoom call, which means that I now own his entire likeness. I did email VJ and ask for his mailing address, so if I can get that, I am going to send him a TRRS reunion at the Ryugyong Hotel t-shirt. The yellow parenti's not approved, Lodain? I mean, is that an illegal emote? Quick question: do you watch Chris James's Not Even a Show? Is he the comedian from BC that does like he's connected to the like YKS guys? No, I mean Michael didn't sign off on it. Okay, I see. JFK definitely didn't sign off on the emote, nor did Donald Sutherland. Yeah, I've actually been... So, Doc, I actually appeared on his show a couple years ago, which is cool. I don't really, like, follow those guys much anymore, though. Just like VJ, he's a living person that didn't approve of the emote, but emotes are practically fair use, and these are all public figures. I mean, I'm an emote on other channels. Even our friend John McCain's Ghost has now is an old Rob emote. And there's an emote of me with like a cinnamon bun on my head. Why? I don't know. I have no idea why. I couldn't tell you. And you don't see me hooting and hollering about it, do you? Anyway. Anywho. The gig economy is kind of a socialist dream, they might say. Now everybody works directly for everybody else. I mean, the frustrating thing about the gig economy shit and like these delivery apps is that like they could be great, right? The technology is great. The technology is not the problem. Like if you could get a gig economy job as an Uber driver, or delivery driver, or whatever, like we need to cut down on car culture, whatever. So maybe that's a bad example, but like, and it was nationalized and you could just get a job doing that if anyone could do it, and you would get a good salary and benefits and vacation time and healthcare and stuff. That would be wonderful. You know, it's a great technology. It would be a great way for people to like have a job in society and be able to pay for housing and pay for other things. You know, the problem is that everyone's fucking exploited in the process. You know, as always, the exploitation is the problem. You know, if you could go and get a job at the Amazon warehouse and it was actually like if it was a decent union job with like, again, benefits and vacation time, and you weren't at work to the absolute bone, you know, and you could go to the fucking bathroom maybe during the day because they just had enough workers that if you go to the bathroom, it doesn't cause some kind of cataclysmic drop in production. You know, if these were actually good jobs, our system would not be so bad. Or Walmart is another example too. Like, these could be just nationalized, or McDonald's, or we've talked about this before, right? McDonald's, Walmart, Amazon, any of these gig company apps, whatever. These could all be like nationalized and be fucking great make work programs where people could just get a fucking good, decent job. These are like important roles in our society, grocery stores, what have you, you know? And if you have too many people signing up to work at these places, well, then you have full employment, right? And then people can just like work less. People will work less because there's enough people to do the fucking work. So you can get a decent salary without working 50 hours or 40 hours or 35. Maybe you could get a decent salary working 20 hours because there's enough people showing up at the grocery store or the McDonald's drive-thru or to be a delivery driver or the warehouse, you know? All the like talk about it not being doomer, even though I don't have a lot of confidence in the revolutionary potential of our society, all this infrastructure is there. Like all of this stuff, if someone came along that actually got organized enough to seize state power and could just like fucking seize all these institutions, all the infrastructure is there to have a fully planned economy, you know, where everyone could have a decent job and everyone could have a decent standard of living. Yeah, we got to seize and nationalize Walmart. That's what it's not. Seizing control of the state. It's not even just like the government. It's not just parliament. But yeah, it's the warehouses. It's the restaurants. It's these institutions. We have enough empty homes that there shouldn't be homeless people. We have enough unemployed people that there shouldn't be jobs not being done. The issue is we have an economy oriented towards capital accumulation, not production. Not around raising the standard of living. No, we don't. This is my Stalin amount. I mean, it gets into the Stalin discourse as well, you know, that we've seen lately. I don't even want to get into because how fucking annoying it is. But people say that it's, you know, that whatever, that it's like that you should be like expelled from left spaces for like ever saying anything good about Stalin. And people want to seriously sit around and pretend they're like revolutionary. They want to pretend they're revolutionary. Yeah, you're going to have a revolution in your society. You're going to seize control of the arms of the state. You're going to reappropriate people's wealth. You're going to reappropriate all these institutions. And you don't think you're going to be able to get tough? You don't think you're going to be able to get tough and do some pretty horrific shit in that process? Really? You're a revolutionary and you think you're going to seize all these levers of power and redistribute all this wealth and land and income, and you're going to do that without getting fucking tough with people, and everyone's just going to be on board. Everyone's just going to be on board and say, well, we won, we lost, fair and square. No, that's not what's going to happen. In fact, there is going to be very extremely organized resistance to try and stop that. Whatever you're advocating for, if you're advocating for any kind of like revolutionary situation. I get annoyed at Marxists who oppose the conquest of political power. I do as well, Wraith. I do as well. I've talked about it before. It's part of the way we fetishize losing in the West. If you're a Western leftist, you can never win. You can never win. That means that it's bad and authoritarian when you win. You can only suffer. Like, we were looking at this piece the other day. Very interesting. It's all part of our like sort of Christian background. You can only suffer. You can never win. When you start to win, when you start to actually build power, that's when you're doing it wrong. That's when it's authoritarian. I really want to do an episode on the Oka crisis that took place in Canada. Were you aware at that time? I mean, Johnny, I think I was about 10. What was it, 92? Oka? Yeah, 1990. I was 7, so not really. Not really. And frankly, in our education system, they did not do nearly enough to educate people about it and inform people about that. Yeah, it's the Twitter left in a nutshell, and it's the Twitch left as well. I mean, this is pervasive across, not even in social media, but like if you organize in any of these leftist spaces, right? It's the same kind of thing. Any kind of like progressive media, any left media institution, they all fetishize the same kind of thing and say, oh no, you can never praise the Soviet Union. You certainly can never praise someone like You're going to praise Stalin? Oh my goodness, the leader of the Soviet Union during the most consequential years of its existence, when it triumphed over fascism. You never say anything positive about that guy. That's really dangerous. You should be expelled from any left space if you're going to do anything so crazy. But yeah, you're still, these people call themselves revolutionaries still. We're going to have a revolution. We're going to seize political power. We're going to seize we're going to redistribute people's incomes, you know? And they think they're going to be able to do that without getting tough with people. It's naive. You know, it's really naive. You know, if you're going to call yourself a socialist or whatever, you understand what needs to be done. You know, the people that have power in our society and the way that we need to take that away from them, you know, by force. They're not just going to give it to us because we asked nicely. You know, they're not going to be very happy about this. These powerful interests, when we reappropriate their wealth and their income and all their land and stuff, they're not going to be happy with this at all. Anyway, even like the proletariat, whatever you want to call them, people who have become so like radicalized in the wrong direction, like I was saying before, the decades and decades of anti-communist propaganda, they're not going to be happy about it either. Even if we're trying to like make changes in our society and culture that empower them and help them. When that moment comes, are we just going to say like, I guess we shouldn't do it then? They don't want it. They said they don't want it, so we shouldn't make any effort to now like educate them about our program, or just like implementing it whether they want it or not, if we know that that's what's best. Communism doesn't work because a Cuban nurse smoked a cigarette. That's right. That's right. What with the seize the mean stuff? Did you try all the permutations to ask really nicely in a way that white middle class does not get uncomfortable for the means of production? That's right. We can't make these people uncomfortable. At least I see more people softening on China and maybe internationalism generally as things continue to get worse here, so there's some progress. I do question sometimes too, Sean, just whether if material conditions get bad enough, will people be able to if they get a solution to that offered to them, will that break through the programming? If their lives just get miserable enough, and you say like, well, we can help. You know, we can help fix this stuff. Will they be more inclined to listen to that? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting test to see. Yeah, I know a guy. That's it. More lighthearted discussion. Accelerationist arc. I don't know, Johnny. I don't know. You know? I would, I don't really want to have to go through the hard times. You know, I would rather it wasn't like this. I would like to avoid all this shit. I would just like to mostly just be left alone. Yeah, acceleration of Chinese ascension. That's right. That's how I'm an accelerationist. That's exactly right. Acceleration of Xi making Justin Trudeau cry in public. That was pretty wonderful, as I discussed with Vijay Prashad the other night. It was fun to talk about that with him. Not just Chinese ascension, but global peaceful cooperation. And that's the other contradiction, though, right, Johnny? Is that like even that we were talking about that with Vijay, about multilateralism, right? He was talking about this idea of like multilateralism versus multipolarity. We talk about multipolarity a lot, but he pointed out, I think, and it was an interesting point, how China or Russia don't really want to be these poles. They don't want to be these big global hegemons. They just want everyone to work together and have global peaceful cooperation. Russia is maybe like less so in that direction, but China specifically. I think Russia has kind of given up on the idea of peaceful coexistence, as we've seen. But that's the thing, no matter, even if they don't want to be this global hegemon and they do just want global peaceful cooperation, that's not going to be an option. That's not going to be an option because as we've seen in the past, as Vijay has pointed out, the Soviet Union wanted peaceful cooperation as well. And that was never acceptable. All this kind of non-aligned movement in the global south in the post-war period and the anti-colonial movement, they just wanted to be left alone and develop their societies in a peaceful way, in a more equitable way. And that was not acceptable for the West, the ruling class of the West. Russia's just like, fuck it, you want a bad guy from Scarface. That's right. That's pretty much how we can understand that. I don't understand this question. Do day-to-day Chinese nationals even understand socialist ideas? I don't understand that question. I mean, it's part of the reason I'm talking about giving hope, right? Just this idea, as much as people in the West love to complain about China, is it really, are they really building socialism or are they not? Are they just a capitalist country of whatever, what people say? But like Chinese kids in school learn about Marxism. You know, it's still a Marxist society where they uphold all these figures. They uphold Marx and Lenin in their society, in their culture, and their education system. And, you know, if you believe in socialism, that's not nothing either. That's billions of people. That's a like large percentage of the global population in this coming generation are coming of age, steeped learning those ideas about how capitalism works and how it functions. You know, I think that's pretty interesting. That's a lot of people. That's going to have a big impact in the global culture. Not necessarily the culture in the West, but globally, especially when you're talking about the development that's happening. So many people in the global south also uphold Stalin. I mean, people remember. People remember in these cultures. Who was there? Who has been exploiting them and who tried to protect and defend them from exploitation? Where it particularly needs to be enforced is in the party, though a society can survive. Some isolated capitalists, the USSR couldn't survive its leadership going that way. Well, and that seems to be the thing about the Xi era, right? Is that they have kind of gone back in that direction in the party. For sure, there are signs that China's learned the lesson from the Soviets. Absolutely. Sorry, both sides are doing an imperialism in Angola, sweaty. God damn, Blueberry. Jesus, the things people talk about on here. It's just unbelievable. That's why I don't engage with any of this shit. That's right, Red Scare. It's the rare evening Rob. That's right. The shift I'm noticing is that even some expats from countries with socialist values are starting to drift away from reactionary anti-communism as much. I mean, it depends where. I saw some footage of like the recent, anti-police protests that are happening. And there's like communities of gusanos from different cultures all coming together to like protect the state. Becoming this like reactionary line of like paralegal like militia members. You see a lot of these Proud Boys are like Cuban and people from South Vietnam, South Korea. The places that Ukraine, people that came from like the former Soviet Union, right? Yeah, it is the violence of imperialism coming quite literally. It's true. My food is just so tantalizingly far away still. Tantalizingly. Not that China didn't have its own period of questionable leadership and hurdles to pass. You said, okay, so the USSR post-Stalin had a deformed leadership that wasn't able to offer commodities that their population wanted, losing a propaganda war against the West, something that China was able to do after the Sino-Soviet split. And for sure had their own period of questionable leadership. I was talking about this with our friend Famous Horse the other day, but a lot of those decisions, even though there's a lot of things you can criticize about certain decisions that were made in China, like in that period, like after the Deng Xiaoping period that we talk about so much, a lot of questionable foreign policy decisions, but like that's the kind of essential contradiction, though, is that right that they had to, the basic question we keep asking this every time this comes up. How do you build socialism, right? And China is not a one-to-one carbon copy of the West in the same historical conditions and the same economic conditions in this deeply impoverished, illiterate, war-torn country. This is what you have to work with. And so not only do you have to build socialism under these economic conditions, but under the threat of global imperialism as well. How do you develop socialism and simultaneously make the U.S. feel like you're on their side, and you make the Western imperialists feel like you're part of the team, right? That's how they had to those are the contexts that they had to make these decisions. And we can sit back and criticize that, and there are things that are worth criticism. But I think I'm very sympathetic to this idea that like this was the context historically and economically under which these decisions were being made in the first place. So even though there was certainly questionable things that happened, I am sympathetic to that kind of argument. That shift in sentiment I was noting is mostly from my few Chinese expat friends. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Although you see these reactionary Chinese expats they make up the vast majority, or there's not even the vast majority, but every single mainstream Chinese like writer, like in our media, like it's not like a majority of them. There's no, maybe there is, maybe on the mainstream level, maybe someone could prove me wrong about this. I don't think I am wrong though. There's no like prominent Chinese expat writing for the New York Times or the Washington Post that supports in China, the current Chinese government, and talks about the things that we should like learn from them, or criticizes the endless saber rattling. Every single like mainstream voice Chinese expat that has a voice in media are all like China watchers, anti-China, anti-CPC. Well, that's what I mean, Frank. I'm not saying that's what it's the case with like all Chinese expats, but that's definitely the representation that you see. You don't see in our media or in our culture, you don't see really representation of Chinese expats or immigrants that are softened on that kind of thing, right? There are some really wacky Chinese expat groups that picket outside of houses of people who think they're CCP spies. Well, there's the whole like ballet thing. What is that? Shen, what is the Falun Gong ballet? Shen Yun, yeah. You see all your local restaurants and all around your neighborhoods lately, images like ads for that. These are like the Chinese voices that get upheld in our media, no matter how reactionary and wacky it is. Selling this fantasy version about China before communism, it's really remarkable, isn't it? China before communism, oh, some fucking paradise. Oh yeah. This like extremely impoverished feudalistic society. I saw a new one the other day. They're encroaching everywhere. For sure. And you know there's big money behind it. As a leftist, I think we should trust this weird far-right cult with all this mystery money. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Good. Everybody danced before communism. Look, it's like that Gusano sitcom that we watch sometimes. Cirque du Soleil. That's nice, Slodan. Very nice. Yeah, like we saw in that Gusano sitcom. Che Guevara, he's a monster. He banned music and dancing. Like, people really believe this shit. Pretty amazing stuff. Did we watch something on that?
Get ready to travel back in time to the magical world of ancient China. With a unique blend of classical dancers, beautiful costumes, and legends coming to life, Shenyun is a theatrical performance that will take your breath away.
Good.
Hi everyone, I'm excited to tell you about a new show coming to the Bay Area. So I'm talking to Abe, who's going to tell us all about the Shenyun experience. Tell us what it's about, Abe.
Well, Shenyun is a show for
This
everyone.
video is Falun to
and
load
we're excited
properly.
to invite your audience to come and experience
We got
the
some
show.
zingers
Shenyun
going on
presents
right now.
classical Chinese dance and music. and it was established in 2005 in New
I
York.
didn't know
by
what
a
Shenyun
group
was
of
and what
elite
he was
Chinese
so on the
artists.
nose like giant banners saying
Shenyun
how bad
presents
communism
classical
is.
Chinese dances, ethnic and folk dances, story-based dances, accompanied by an orchestra and solo performers. Shenyun's mission is to revive genuine traditional culture, and this year marks Shenyun's 13th year of traveling here to the Bay Area. We want to extend that invitation to your audience.
All right, tell us why folks here in the Bay Area would benefit from a show like this.
Well, Shenyun is a show that must be seen. Its entertainment and production values are at the top, and you can go online to see that many distinguished audience members have said that Shenyun is the best. And so what you expect to see from a Shenyun show is a journey through China's history, where the audience can experience ancient legends and heroes come to life on stage. But what's at the heart of all this is exquisite Chinese classical dance. That's spellbinding, where you have the beautiful choreography, this amazing backdrop that interacts with
Sad
the
that President Xi has made
an
dancing
amazing
illegal. I agree.
Orchestra and this beautiful choreography. So
It was
it
wrong
leaves
in
one
Kevin
feeling
Bacon's
inspired,
town, and it's wrong
uplifted,
now.
And it's the best way to start the new year.
Color-wise, I mean, is this just a show for the senses, would you say?
The big
Many
flashing
people
one that
say
we're looking at the
that
bad
they find that
propaganda
they're
right
full
now.
of joy, they're full of happiness, and some people have tears in their eyes, and some people leave feeling very
This is like a
uplifted
news
and
hit, too.
refreshed. And we feel like in the holidays,
Like, this is a news channel. This is ABC 7 News Bay Area. And this is like an like we're watching an advertisement for this program, right? Like, can we agree on that's what we're looking at? We're watching just a total advertisement for this reactionary cult-funded...
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Cult-funded anti-communist ballet. Dan, hello. Thank you, Dan. I have my viewers. I appreciate that, Dan Simpson. Thank you. What is up? Just like how I wish Stalin would have gotten all the Trotskyites, I wish CPC would have gotten all the Falun Gongers. Well, I don't think Americans are the arbiters of authentic Chinese culture. Yeah, and someone was saying this a few moments ago, and I think I missed this. And I apologize. First, you got this comment. China before communism is similar to all the return accounts. Selling ancient society of even the 1800s is a glorious, beautiful era. And of course, it would have depended on whether you were part of the tiny elite or part of the oppressed, disease-ridden masses. Yeah, very good point. Someone was saying, though, that it's like French dancing. Like, it's not even like they literally lie about its cultural origins. I'm trying to find the comment and I lost it. And I apologize.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Happy Lundi.
Magyar guy, hello. Thank you for the 3 months tier 1. Thank you. Happy Lundi to you as well. Yeah, it's ballet, not traditional Chinese. Yeah. It's really amazing. Yeah, Primetime Rob Rousseau, that's right. That would actually be a good wrestler name now that you mention it, James. I was always the natural in my created wrestlers, but Primetime Rob Rousseau does have a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Maybe if I ever create a new wrestler, that could be it. Let's watch the rest of this news hit. And yeah, this news hit from ABC 7 News Bay Area about this Falun Gong financed Shenyun anti-communist ballet. It's really amazing. This like news program, which is this, it's just essentially running an ad for this, right?
With the new year, that it's really the best show.
Do people actually have to know Chinese
Well, it's prime time and DPRK time.
to appreciate the show?
No, they don't. There is a host, an MC, that guides the audience through each performance. If you enjoy exquisite costumes...
This is some guy,
beautiful
Rob
music,
Russo, some leftist based in
amazing
Canada.
dance techniques.
I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Hey, Left Flank Vets, thank you for the raid. Thank you, Left Flank Vets. Welcome. Hello. Don't do the thing. Don't do it. You don't need to do that. No. Why don't you think for yourself, chatters? How about that? Why don't you think for yourself? You're going to come in here and spam the candy liquor emote just because some guy told you to? Just because some guy told you to? Oh, yeah. Well, we're actually free thinkers in this community, and no one in this community would think that I would like make these kind of demands on them, demand that they subscribe to the channel or gift subs or use emotes in other channels. Everyone in this community understands correctly that I respect them a whole lot more than that. Sorry to see that the Left Flank Vets doesn't feel the same. I think it's very unfortunate. Yeah, just get it out of your system. Get all the emotes out of your system. My bro went to Shenyang off on some mushies, sat through the whole thing. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. Said at the end of performance, a white Jesus rises into the sky and saves China. Oh, nice. Good for them. What are y'all watching? We're watching an ad for the Shenyang anti-communist Falun Gong ballet thing, which is popping up in like all our communities. Why are we in the end times other than because American News is now doing free advertising for an anti-CPC? Is that the right one? Propaganda from an insane religious cult. This is only tangentially related. Really, we're in the end times because of the different confluence of economic collapse, climate change, pandemics, social unrest, escalating threat of global conflict, and all these things converging at the same time. And we're talking about things that give us hope, talking about, you know, some of the shifts, geopolitical global shifts were happening that make us feel maybe a little bit more hopeful, a little less doomer. And then talking about, of course, the massive anti-China propaganda campaign that's been unfolding in our culture now for the last couple of years, and which this Shenyang is kind of a part of. Let's watch the end of this. Again, this is a news piece. It's a news hit, which is completely indistinguishable from just an ad for this anti-China, anti-communist Falun Gong promoted ballet thing.
Touching stories and exciting legends. You'll love Shenyang.
Okay, so we know that Shenyang is incredibly successful cities across the country, all over the world, but it's not something that's
for sure, Red
same
Wizard,
as
it's
in
all
China.
over.
Why is that?
It's true. We hope one day that Shenyang can travel to China, and that's the wish of people in the Shenyang and everyone. Back in 2005, a group of elite Chinese artists actually had to leave China to actually be able to have the freedom to...
These fucking cultists. Can you believe it? Shenyang cannot be Bay Area life. This is on the news. This is on the news here. Shenyang cannot be seen anywhere else in the world, not even in China, because the ruling communist regime has viewed China's rich spiritual and artistic heritage as a threat to its ideology and for decades tried to erase it. Thank you for that, ABC News, Bay Area Life, YouTube channel. Thank you for that bit of news information. That's good. Thank you for throwing that in. Of course, these people just had to leave because they loved freedom too much and China hates it, so they had to just kick them out.
And everyone. Back in 2005, a group of elite Chinese artists actually had to leave China to actually be able to have the freedom to present this culture on stage. So it's amazing what they've been able to do and bring this culture back to life. It's so beautiful, and there's so much history there, and we're really happy every year to be able to bring this and share this with
Why
the
is Ben
community
Stiller
here.
supporting this? I
And
thought
so
he knew
we're really
better.
happy to be here and
I
bring
thought
Shenyang back
he was
here
better
year
than
after
this.
year to share this beautiful culture. And that's really at the heart of these dancers in Shenyang, is to revive this lost culture and share it with the world. And so being here for the 13th
Why don't you say that a few
year,
more times?
even if someone in your audience has seen the show, every year Shenyang puts together an all-new show with new choreography and new music. And so we invite them to come back and see it. And for those of you who haven't seen the show, you can't miss it. It's one of the best shows you'll ever experience.
And is this something all ages can experience and enjoy?
Really all ages.
hard-hitting news
I'm
hit.
approached by parents all the time that come up to me and say, oh, you know, I was so worried about my child seeing the show, but they didn't say a word throughout the whole show. And it's really captivating, not only for children, but
Did
for
you even
every
watch the
age.
Olympics in
If you're
China? It was
someone
way
who
cooler
loves
than
the
this.
arts,
Yeah,
or
you
if you're
can.
someone that does
They still have
the
like
level of
costumes and
artistry
dancing and
the
stuff in
beauty and
China.
the compassion that's presented on stage is really unmatched.
All right, this is something
They
that's
still do, in
absolutely
fact, have
perfect
all
for the
these
holidays,
things.
Don't you say?
It's the absolutely perfect holiday gift. Please go to Shenyang.com.
Is this the before
and buy
China,
tickets
before
today.
communism
Thank
shit?
you for
Yes, it
talking to
is.
us, Abe.
Thank you.
This is Jordan. This is that thing you keep asking me to go to. You keep sending me this invite about this, so I just wanted to check it out on the stream. Seems kind of weird. If you're into it, I mean, I guess that's fine. I don't want to criticize the stuff that you like, but let's all go together. That's right. But do the shows come with a cult-like twist to them? That's where the magic is. Yeah, I thought China before communism was when peasants dropped dead in their mid-20s and women had their feet bound. I mean, this is always the thing, right? That people hold on to. This is why we uphold Parenti here, right? Because he kind of talks about this discrepancy. Like, what was going on before? What was going on before? You can point to different mistakes that maybe happened in these socialist projects, whether it was Mao or whether it was Stalin in the Soviet Union. You can talk all kinds about terrible things that happened, mistakes that happened, contradictions. We can talk about that, but it's like, what was going on before? You know, what was going on before in these societies? You know, in China and in different parts of China, like in Tibet, places where the CPC moved in. You know, we have to was there a progression there, regardless of whatever mistakes or whatever contradictions or bad things that may have happened? Was there a cultural renewal? Was there a progression that happened? These are what we don't talk about. But we all have that that attitude, right? We talked about the attitude of people in the Western left. Are they going to keep their radio programs and their newspapers? This is all we fucking care about. What do you mean these cultists weren't allowed to perform this anti-communist ballet? That's horrible. Got to protect the fascist right to free speech above all else. That's right. We have to protect the right of these deranged fucking cultists. Far-right extremists who finance, the Epoch Times newspaper that, radicalize all our parents and gams and stuff. Will there be civil liberties for the fascists? That's right. That's what we always want to ask. That's the question we always want to ask. In the Western left. That's the only thing anyone fucking cares about. Yeah, Tibet had like a feudalistic slave society. The Twitter files. I heard the Chinese have to dance in a flour mill on the other side of the tracks in order to avoid the county ordinances that ban dancing. We're sending Kevin Bacon to investigate immediately. He's going to investigate this no dancing situation. I mean, that's always the thing. You talk about either Stalin or Mao, which have become basically in our society, we are talking about the most bloodthirsty, evil dictators of all time. It's like Stalin, Mao, and then Hitler is like seventh, I guess. When we do our rankings of evil dictators and the people that died in these societies. And then you look at like the massive, massive increase in literacy and education and life expectancy and access to like these important, services in these societies that were feudalistic and fucking backwards and illiterate. Huge, huge increases in people's standard of life, people's access to all these different things that we need to live lives of dignity. The rankings were the idea I had for the show tonight. Oh, good. Good. I actually just saw your DM, Jordan. Do you think we could do 7:30 while you're here? Is 7:30 a possibility? Because I had a fucked up schedule today because I was taking care of my kid during the day. So that's why I'm in prime time now. 1 million opium addicts in Hong Kong before the revolution. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, Hong Kong things were so great before the CPC moved in there, when it was a colonial outpost for an entire generations, It's really silly the way that we think about it and the way that we talk about these things. Food is still 13 minutes away. So excited to eat that now. I'm very hungry. Folks, I got to make a small plea. A small plea for slubs. I kind of half-heartedly suggested this earlier. But while you're here, folks, I was talking about whether we're living in end times and our kind of collapsing economic system and how we individualize like the way out of that. So we have no collective response, but you can join the gig economy or work at Walmart until you're 92 years old or get one of these, gig economy jobs. And that's what I did. In the ultimate sort of like incredibly dystopian futuristic element, I've turned all my anxiety and angst and bad feelings about our culture and our economy, and I've turned it into content. And I turn it into content every single day on Twitch. And if you want to support this content, folks, if you want to support the work that I do, if you enjoy this community and you enjoy this program,
you've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
God damn. Red Scary, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Red Scary, for bailing me out. Thank you. And if anyone else does want to support this community, that's how you do it.
You can count on me.
That is how I'm able to do this program each and every day, is through the kindness and generosity of people who love the community and the stream more than their own lives, such as Red Scary. One of the biggest TRRS acolytes and devotees out there. Thank you, Rylan86 as well for the gifted sub. Thank you. And anyone else. And I'll just remind you as well that if there is a generous chatter out there that...
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
There is a brand new alert, a brand new exciting alert.
You can count on me.
That
You're
plays
gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
People give 10 subs or above, which I'm not expecting. That's a lot. That's a big, there's very generous. I'm simply saying, if anyone does want to do that, it does trigger a brand new exciting alert. I'm simply pointing that out. That's all. Plunger Man, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Plunger Man, thank you very much. That's very, very kind of you. And thank you also to Chaos the Gardener for the gifted sub. Thank you. Just like I was saying before, folks, I would rather these gig economy jobs were decent jobs where people had just a living wage and benefits and all that stuff. I would like to be able to do the show and just have Twitch be nationalized and just be able to get access to like a monthly stipend for doing this program and spreading socialist propaganda to people. That's what I would prefer. Unfortunately, that's not the world we're living in. We're living in the world that we're living in where I have to debase myself in the way that you're currently seeing. Debase myself. Stipend, a monthly stipend. I have to debase myself like this and talk about slubbing and slub to rib, and I got to do dances and stuff, That's what I have to do. I would rather it was not like this.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob
I would prefer for it not to be like this. Believe me. It's not stipend. No, that's not true. That's not how it's pronounced.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I love to receive my monthly stipend on the TRRS. That's right. Me too, John. Me too. Thank you very much, Johnny, for the gifted sub. I really appreciate that. And thank you to Moss World as well for the gifted sub. Thank you, Moss. Thank you, folks. Do I need to debase myself further? Is that what you want? Is that what you want from me? Is that what's going to make you happy? Is that what you want to see? Fuck. Right? Is this what you want? Huh? Going here. One second. I'll find the thing that I'm looking for. So we can continue this hype train. Which I love talking about and doing. I love doing. Any moment now, I'm going to find the thing that I'm looking for. I can do the song.
We simply
is what you want?
use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Is this what you want to see? Huh? I'm a grown adult man, folks. I'm turning 40 years old this year. 40. This is what I'm doing. This is how I have to debase myself. Ridiculous. And you're leaving me hanging. It's literally just so people can mock me and laugh at me now. There's no actual monetary value.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this. You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Absurd.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Absolutely ridiculous.
count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
This is just humiliating. Oh my god. Librarian, thank you.
Yes, dance for us, white man.
Oh my goodness. What, I can't even see because my alert's being blocked. Goobernaut. Thank you very much, Goobernaut, as well.
Point and laugh.
Jesus Christ. Poison224, thank you very much for the gifted sub. Thank you, Lexi Rose, for the gifted sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Miguel at 69. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much. 5 gifted subs. Very kind of you, Miguel at 69. Thank you. Thank you to ML Thoughtism for the gifted sub as well. Thank you to Jack Bird Real for the gifted sub. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Like one more time. Okay? This is what you sick people want. This is what you people want from me. I'm gonna have like future historians combing through Twitch archives and looking at this shit. Like my fucking great grandchildren are probably watching this right now in the future. And they're humiliated. Rightfully so. For the Bay Area dance troupe. I can't do anymore. I can't. We still do have a hype train. We still do. There still is a hype train happening. In case anyone else wants to support the content that I create here on twitch.tv. But thank you for everyone who contributed so far. My food must be here soon. We're getting to the mukbang. We're getting to the mukbang portion of the show. You should play these hype trains to your son when he turns 16. Well, that's the thing, because he's seen this kind of stuff like now, but he's 7. He thinks it's cool and funny, but he's certainly going to have a different tune when he's older and he's seeing this kind of stuff. We're getting to the end of this hype train, folks, and one generous chatter could get to the sub goal. One generous chatter. And remember what I was saying earlier? Not only can you purchase the little tiny images, but you get that good feeling of seeing the number become the good number. You know, wouldn't that be a good feeling? Wouldn't that be a good feeling if you were the generous chatter that got to the goal? Don't you want this tiny image of teenaged me with a mushroom on my head? Doesn't that sound like something you'd be interested in? Yeah, the kids in high school are showing clips of his dad.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Jesus. Real unedited teen Rob photo. Unbelievable. Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much for the gifted sub. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Listen, I'm going to pull an ultimate power move and go get my food from the stairs while this hype train is going on. It looks like a man vomiting. Yeah, am I trying to end my own life? I don't know. Who knows? They're going to look back at us millennials like, what the fuck? At least I will say, as ridiculous as this channel is sometimes, and the ridiculous things that I have to do and say sometimes in order to like make a living from doing this channel, make a modest living from it, as ridiculous as all that is, at least I try to do some worthwhile things. Like that's always been the trade-off, right? I try to do at least a few things that are somewhat worthwhile in terms of sharing, you know, socialist and imperialist propaganda, you know, and maybe making an impact, not on hundreds or thousands of people, maybe just a few people at least. I'm having a little bit of an impact on the things that they believe. Okay. So at least I'm doing that. Yes, I have to humiliate myself. Yes, I have to dance like a buffoon. Yes, I eat eclairs and apples and sandwiches and soups and what have you, and make masticating noises into the microphone, which people enjoy for some reason. Yes, I do all those things. Yes, I do. I'm at least trying to balance that out with some worthwhile commentary and discussion about politics and the economy and our culture. Don't go anywhere, folks. I'm just going to I'll put this on just for a moment while I go eat my food. Here's my talk with VJ Prashad. A little bit more content from Friday. It was really good. I'm going to put this on while I eat. I'm going to go get my food right now. Thank you everyone for contributing to the channel and the community. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Even if I sometimes don't even seem like I do. I really, really do. Here's my talk with VJ Prashad, though. And again, first of all, I'm going to play it on the screen, but please click on the link in the chat and like and comment on the video, which costs nothing at all. Not to give you too many calls to action here. Like and comment on the video. It's very, very helpful, and I appreciate it. If you want to share it with people, wonderful, what have you. But if you want to just a quick comment and a like, also very, very helpful. And subscribe to the program if you can on YouTube. Thought we would have scared him off the first time. No, he very bravely agreed to come back. Let's put this on. I'll be right back.
I guess the way in which people want to think about reality, that bewilders me.
Yeah.
There's a way, the kind of rush to make comments without really studying things, and I find that puzzling. Like for instance, this business in Ukraine now with the German tanks. All the media commentary is about tanks, right? Germany must allow Poland to send tanks. Well, this really interested me a lot because you remember the beginning of the war when Russian tanks entered Ukraine, they were basically wiped out very quickly. And in recent months, the Russians haven't been using a ground operation. They've been hitting Ukraine hard with missiles. So what do the Ukrainians propose to do with the tanks if this is not really a tank battle? And then, but nobody was asking the question, like, is there really a tank confrontation? Will the Leopard tanks be facing Russian tanks or Abrams tanks from the US? Well, the fact is this may have nothing to do with tanks. It might have something to do with using the tanks debate to strong arm Germany into fully backing Ukraine, or whatever. I don't even know what's going on. But all I could tell was that people in the mainstream, story number one, lead story, Russia hammers Ukraine with missiles. Okay, that's story number one. Story number two, Ukraine must have tanks. And I'm thinking, listen, journalists and editors, how is a tank going to deal with a missile? Put your two stories together. And I'm not a military expert. I never would presume to be one. But it's super illogical, that you're first reporting there are missile strikes coming in. And missiles, are basically supersonic weapons for which you need extraordinarily sophisticated means to retaliate, like missile batteries of various kinds by themselves. But a tank that whizzes around, on the countryside, how is that going to deal with, missile? So I was like, what's going on in the media? Like basic logical flaws or inconsistencies don't seem to be of concern. There's a debate in Ramstein around the tanks. Well, let's focus on the tanks. Well, weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're pointing out of the issue with kind of mainstream press, especially in the West as well, it's a problem it's a generational problem, but it's something that I think has been there's been a real magnifying glass put on that by the last year of this war in Ukraine. I was actually just watching back our previous conversation, which took place about 3 weeks or so before the invasion kicked off. And it was very fascinating kind of talking about that, and discussing sort of the context about all the discussions that was going on now, and how we were kind of talking about how Ukraine was being led along by these Western powers, and we're kind of trying at that time to
count on me.
tone down the rhetoric a little bit, because they realized that they were potentially going to get involved with something that was going to be very destructive and harmful to the country.
Oh my, Gen X Bushy.
So it's been Gen X Bushy. Thank you so much for the 3 gifted subs, Gen X Bushy. We did it. Hell yeah, I really appreciate that, Gen X Bushy. Thank you. Kind of fascinating to look at those comments in the context of the last year. And I think, what you're talking about with the media, I think the thing that what has stuck out for me over the last year of kind of following this conflict and also just paying close attention to the media coverage of it, is the way that here in the West, I know it's not the same all over the world, but if you're living in one of these Western countries, part of the rules-based international order or what have you, there's been this extremely one-sided view of this conflict, and in terms of the debate that happens, or in the coverage that happens of this conflict, the only viewpoint that's ever really able to be articulated in any kind of mainstream press is how many weapons go to Ukraine and how much funding and how much training goes to these militias, not whether we should be contributing to this conflict or whether we should be escalating it, but how much, what's the level of escalation that we need. That's been the only viewpoint that's been allowed to be expressed basically in mainstream press now for the last year. Just this endless cheerleading for further escalation of the conflict. And any kind of dissenting viewpoint of that has been completely suppressed from the mainstream press, or maybe sometimes it takes place in far right media, which is another kind of a really alarming thing. But anyone who has suggested, we shouldn't escalate this conflict, anyone who's pointed out, the role that Canada and the United States and these Western countries played in provoking the conflict or talking about this context, has been completely suppressed and completely silenced. And the only room that there's been in terms of this discussion is how much can we escalate and how fast, and how many more weapons and tanks and bombs and missiles can we get to Ukraine. And I think that's when probably the most alarming thing about watching this coverage play out and this conflict play out.
The bye thing is just so funny. The bye situation. I mean, that's the kind of thing that probably would have really freaked me out when I was just getting started doing this kind of stuff. And it was a little nerve-wracking. If we weren't able to fix it, it would have been not great, obviously. But it was just so funny. I just could not stop laughing. It's fucking hilarious. This is not a burrito. It's a pita bread. It's like Lebanese food. It's from Boozstan. Yeah, VJ just casually eating his sandwich. VJ. That was just fantastic. It was so funny. Hello. Hello, VJ, are you there?
Bye.
This is a professional broadcaster, folks. That's a professional broadcaster reaction. VJ, I'm hearing some echoing. You got some minor echo.
Minor echoing.
I don't hear anything you're saying. I just hear bye, 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 bye repeatedly. Hello.
Man, that was very funny. VJ's just like, whatever.
I mean, what does one say, honestly? Like,
I think he was just sitting there calmly listening to it happen.
I'm at a loss because there are people
He
who
was just eating.
at one point, 20 odd years ago, stood quite strongly against the warmongering in Iraq and so on. Very strong anti-war voices of one kind or the other.
Life goes on, man.
Now those very voices are cheerleading for more weapons for Ukraine. And let's be frank, this war has to end in a negotiation because there are only two ways for wars to end. And I would like to see more public discussion about this. One is the radical, complete, total defeat of an adversary. Like Nazis were defeated in World War II, and then they were brought to Nuremberg and tried, and some escaped to South America, and some committed suicide, and whatever.
And some
But they were defeated, roundly defeated. Okay, that's one way in which a war can end. And then the United States kind of used denazification to both promote some Nazis into Western intelligence services, and then sort of, allowed the others to enter into mainstream West German society. Okay, that's one approach, the complete total defeat. Second approach is a kind of negotiation. Okay, and in a negotiation, all sides have to, deal with the fact that they have to live with each other. Okay, total defeat is actually not possible anymore. The West is simply not going to allow Ukraine to experience a total defeat. I think that Polish armies might cross the border and so on. It's a horrifying scenario, but they are simply not going to allow permanent defeat. And by the way, the Germans were not keen on giving Leopard tanks to Ukraine because they didn't want to provoke the ire of the Russians, frankly. And the United States had to come in and say, okay, we'll give 31 Abrams tanks, which was effectively a kind of nuclear umbrella over Germany. That the United States was saying, look, we're coming in this with Germany. So Germany is not alone. So we're going to be there. And that was an insurance policy for Olaf Scholz, also pressure. Okay. So Ukraine is not going to be allowed to be defeated. Okay. Regardless of what everybody is saying. Secondly, there is no defeat for Russia, in my opinion. Okay. Because Putin might resign. He might decide to take off, or he might be overthrown, him personally. But rooted in Russian society now is a deep patriotic seam where people simply don't want to return to the humiliations of the 1990s when the Soviet Union collapsed. So Russia is not going to permit a defeat. Okay. It's not just about Putin. United Russia is a big political party. They have deep roots in the society. So there's going to be no possibility of either Ukraine or Russia facing a total defeat.
So good.
Okay, if you foreclose that option, total defeat, then you're going to have to deal with the fact that there's going to be a negotiation. Now, unless the United States is prepared to use its incredibly, 1970s technology from Star Trek and dig a trench around Ukraine and bring its giant helicopters and lift up the entire Ukrainian territory and move it to Iowa, unless the US is prepared to do that, the Ukrainians are going to have to live next to the Russians. That's just a reality of geography. Ukraine cannot build a giant wall that, is not going to allow it to deal with the Russians. It's just not going to happen. Ukrainians are going to have to deal with the Russians. They are not moving to Iowa. And besides, if all Ukrainians move to Iowa, there'd be an enormous anti-Ukrainian sentiment in the United States, which is prone to anti-immigrant sentiment, and that to Slavic immigrants. Let's not forget that Slavic immigrants, well, that's at a different level. You see, the whole Brexit debate in Britain was about Polish migrants to Britain. That was all the cliches that abounded, you know. So Ukraine is going to have to deal with the Russians.
Those stories talking about like how, you know, Ukrainians would certainly experience anti-immigrant sentiment in the U.S. One amazing story was the story that came out about the Ukrainian immigrant communities in the UK. They were complaining about how ethnically diverse the UK is. And they're like complaining about all the black and brown kids at their kids' schools. That's what these reactionary Ukrainian immigrant groups are doing in the UK right now. It's fucking crazy. And we saw at the onset of the invasion all the issues with like black and brown Ukrainians having a hard time immigrating in ways that other white Ukrainians were not.
Rob, I have been here for 13 months. I have began to tell my lib mother that Ukraine is not coming to Iowa. Love you, and VJ, please donate to Rob. I can't afford to lose the friendship triangle.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maggot. Uh-oh. You hear me? The woke police. The woke police are coming. The noise gate's getting most of it, but when I talk, you can hear. The woke police are coming for me, folks. They found me. They got me. This is it. This is it for me. I can hear the helicopters coming outside. They're going to be storming this apartment any moment. Yeah, the Havana Syndrome ray gun. That's right. They found me, folks. I didn't think this day would come. Thank you again, Dr. Maggot, for the 13 months of Tier 1. Bye. That's right. It's for real this time. It's for real this time. It's really so pervasive. That's the last sub you're going to see. That's right. No, they're doing the streets like they're plowing this. There's so much snow on the streets right now, and they're plowing the streets. So they do that big siren to like get if people park their cars on the streets. They do that big siren so they come move their cars. No, someone mentioned though hearing like the analysis of VJ on this, and like I was saying, not to toot my own horn too much or whatever, but I was talking about how embarrassing it is to do dancing and all the humiliating shit that I have to do in order to try and make a living on this platform. But hopefully, even though it's humiliating to me and will probably be humiliating to my future family members, I at least take comfort in the fact that like I'm able to provide a little bit of a platform for that kind of analysis, which is not being given in our mainstream media.
You've just become an elite member
in our mainstream
of the friendship
discourse.
triangle.
No, it just isn't. Oh goodness, calm like a Tom. Calm like a Tom, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Very kind of you. Calm like a Tom is someone that appreciates when I humiliate myself for their entertainment. I'd be careful with those stories. It could be bait and become an excuse to not house refugees of Eastern War, much in the same way gang rape was used to villainize Arab refugees. Well, I think the point, though, Mr. Cool Biscotti, right? I understand what you're saying, but our point is that we don't have this like prejudice toward, because we don't have this prejudice towards Ukrainian immigrants, especially because they get framed as being part of the West. They get framed as like not Russian, or they qualify as European, and they don't get the same kind of level of discrimination that those other ethnic groups do. You know? And frankly, I do think we need to talk about our role, not just when it comes to Ukraine, but when it comes to our immigration system in general, in targeting and deliberately importing the most reactionary elements of a lot of these societies. You know, in Ukraine especially. And it's that the Ukrainians, refugees themselves, are complaining about other refugees. Like, I think that's important to talk about.
And right now, the West effectively is
again,
basically telling Ukraine, don't negotiate with the Russians. Don't deal with the Russians. But this is terrible for Ukraine's people and for Ukraine's history to come. It is far better for Ukraine now. And I'm not saying concessions, surrender. I'm saying negotiate. Far better, negotiate. And, look, frankly, what are the issues that the Russians put on the table at Minsk too? And now we know from Angela Merkel, now we know from Francois Hollande that the West was using Minsk too as a way to just drag out time and
they're just buying time.
Ukraine buying time. I mean, they said it, I'm not saying it. I'm just quoting from them, they said it. Okay, fine. But still, what were the issues the Russians raised? Number one, Donetsk, Lugansk, in other words, the Donbass region has a significant Russian majority population. They were seeking autonomy. At the time of Minsk, there was no conversation about Lugansk and Donetsk joining Russia. It was merely the Russians were seeking autonomy for the Russian-speaking population, Russian ethnic population inside Ukraine. Secondly, Crimea had already come and joined Russia.
Historic.
But there was a real problem, which is that the Ukrainian government stopped allowing...
To what Vijay was saying elsewhere in the chat, though, I think it's also true that, if Ukrainians did resettle en masse in places like Iowa or other places across the United States, there would certainly be an anti-immigrant sentiment about them. Not exactly a society or culture that has treated Slavic immigrants very well, throughout history.
Allowing water to be supplied to Crimea. So the Russians built at great expense a bridge to send the water by tanker. One of the demands in Minsk too was restart the water. If not, and this is what the Russians did, they built that land bridge through Mariupol. Okay, so look, there are bits and pieces here for a negotiated settlement. I doubt that Donbass is going to return to Ukraine. Okay, that's gone. The Ukrainians are going to have to sign that off. I very much doubt that the Russians will withdraw from Mariupol without a permanent guarantee of water supply to Crimea, and that Crimea's, accession into Russia is basically accepted by Ukraine. I mean, these are the basic negotiating points. Zelensky knows, because he was elected on a peace campaign, that he's going to have to negotiate, but he has bought the fantasy that has been sold to him by the Boris Johnsons, by the Bidens. I mean, these mediocre Western warrior state politicians, extraordinarily mediocre people. Biden, the guy can't string, and by the way, it's not true that Biden can't string sentences together.
I think Vijay is being too kind to Biden. He's talking about how he couldn't string sentences together in the past. There is a noticeable decrease in ability to speak coherently from Biden in the 80s and 90s, even Biden in 2015. There's a noticeable difference. I think Vijay is being too kind about this.
Because he's an elderly man.
He was mediocre before, though. That is obviously
Biden
true.
couldn't string sentences together when he was a young man. Go back and listen to tape of Biden at the Anita Hill hearing. He struggles to put sentences together. This is the mediocrity of Western warrior state, so-called democratic leaders. Boris Johnson, good God, man. But Zelensky basically was hornswaggled.
I don't want to be the MF does spoilers and makes the Rob nerds who have not watched all the current season episodes angry. We're not going to watch this whole thing anyways. In fact, I have to go soon, Goat, but thank you. And I encourage anyone to watch this. Watch this if you missed this on Friday, please go to the YouTube page, click on the link, and watch this conversation. It's fucking fantastic. But it was really cool, low observable Goat. I mean, someone that's such a prolific author, historian, a great communicator like Vijay, it was really a career highlight to be able to explain that history of the Canadian fascist Ukrainian connection and Canada's role in promoting this anti-Soviet right-wing Ukrainian nationalism. It was really cool and a big pleasure for me to be able to explain that to him. And he seemed really interested and fascinated in it. So that was a good feeling. Good feeling.
A good old-fashioned hard scrabble word from the US prairies. They horn scrabbled Zelensky into this mentality that you can win, you can prevail. I mean, he's wearing camouflage t-shirts that are one size too small for him. What kind of business is this? This is not good for the Ukrainian people. I'm not saying that the Russians are doing anything heroic. I'm not getting into that whole debate, I'm just talking practicalities. What's the out? The out is there's nobody going to win. And secondly, you're going to have to negotiate. You got to negotiate in good faith. Otherwise, it's not going to last for another generation.
Yeah, well, I mean, you talk about this idea of total defeat, which has been sold as the only possible solution that's for Ukrainians and their supporters. Not only the total defeat of Russia in this. This is I still got the sound. I know the noise gate is getting it, but when I talk, you can probably really hear it. They really make a point to make it as loud and as unignorable as possible. These are the conditions that I got to work with here. These are the conditions. Can you hear that? If I turned off the noise gate, it would be like unbearable. Not very polite. Don't they know that Twitch's most subversive stream is broadcasting from this exact location? The convoy, exactly. The convoy is coming. The convoy is coming to fucking get me. Imagine if it was my car. That would be embarrassing. If it was my car the whole time and I'm like complaining, and they're towing it right now, that would be funny. The constabulary. I didn't even end up talking about the anniversary of the convoy people. It just seemed pathetic. We talked about it a little bit. We didn't look at any of the clips, though. It seemed just very embarrassing. Very sad. I saw they were putting like the American flag, too. They're planting the American flag in Ottawa. This is very coherent people with beliefs. Easy to understand beliefs. If we just start using a few more slurs and refuse to have public health measures, we can turn these people into socialists. These people are just socialists in waiting. We just need to be anti-trans enough and they're going to be on board. That's what our friends in the patriotic socialist movement tell us. I don't know if I believe it though. Invasion, but also getting Russia out of Crimea, which just seems to be completely so far away from anything resembling reality that it's just, I don't know how you can expect to have a genuine, sincere conversation about how this conflict should be managed and how it should end if that's what the starting point is for a lot of these folks in the sort of imperialist camp or the Western camp. I mean, that's just completely fantasy land, the idea that that's going to be a possibility, but there's a lot of people that are just maintaining that that's the only possible outcome for this. And many comfortable Western journalists as well that have made caring about Ukraine and Ukrainian sovereignty and democracy their main sort of like political cause that they believe in are very adamant about this. But again, these are people that don't have to live in these regions that are just undergoing this struggle and the bombings and the destruction that the folks that are living there now are living under. It's very kind of sad to see this conversation play out in our media and in our journalism, and to have anyone advocating for an actual settlement or a dialogue like you are be kind of totally marginalized in our media or in our discourse.
Look,
listen, that's the preview. That's the preview of the Chat with VJ. I really encourage people to check it out. Okay. I got to do the podcast with Jordan in 10 minutes. I think it's a subscriber only episode, so I don't want to stream at the same time. But I'm going to just take a few minutes to get ready for that. We're going 3.5 hours or so here. A rare primetime Rob stream. And I just wanted to say thank you again for everyone for tuning in. I will be back tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. And I mean, I had a bunch of stuff to look at on the stream today that I did not do, We had a really interesting discussion, hangout, which I enjoyed. But I have a bunch of stuff tomorrow that we can take a look at. I saw Bloodberry Tart is doing a Dead Space stream. In the evening we can raid some different people than normal. I enjoy Bloodberry Tart's content, Twitter presence, etc. So let's go ahead and give her a raid. Yeah, again, I'll be back tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time. Plenty to get into, plenty of discourse to be had. Got lots of clips and stuff that we can take a look at. This was a very fun one. I enjoyed the discussion. I enjoyed hanging out with you folks. Listen, it's Dead Space, right? You got to chop off the limbs. What do you do in Dead Space? What are they, the necromorphs? Something like that. So get those Rob knife. Get those knife Robs ready to go. So Bloodberry Tart stream and community has the army. Gets a little army in here to chop off those limbs. Okay? So I'm going to raid now. Thanks again, folks. I'll see you in the Discord server. I'll see you tomorrow. And Aliens on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. James Cameron's masterpiece, Aliens. Thanks again, folks. I'll talk to you soon.